Homelessness. What a charming little predicament, right? It's a real ball of sunshine, this lifestyle, where society's disdain casts a lovely shadow over the grim realities that the street dwellers face. Survival is the name of the game, and for many of us, every day is just another desperate roll of the dice. As for me, that abandoned hellhole was as close to heaven as it got, my escape from the bone-chilling indifference of the so-called normal world. Every night, I'd nestle into my cozy cardboard and blanket haven, and the symphony of creaks and groans from the crumbling building felt like a sweet lullaby, ushering me into a delightful, fitful sleep. It wasn't much, but it was my own slice of paradise. I knew every nook, every peculiar sound, and every teasing glimmer of light that slithered through the broken windows. The solitary life was my jam. It was all about self-reliance, baby. I'd sharpened my survival skills to a fine point. The building, with its hidden treasure troves of refuse, had become my sanctuary against the nightmares lurking in those dark alleys. I'd become the MacGyver of the destitute, master of foraging for food and warmth amidst the wreckage, and defending my precious scraps from fellow down-and-outers trying to cling to a shred of dignity. City's apathy was a constant companion, but it was the least of my worries. The homeless world was a bubbling cauldron of violence and exploitation. Those who preyed on our vulnerability, oh, they were the true delights of the evening, sinister predators waiting to pounce. One frigid night, as I cuddled in my cardboard cocoon, I heard the faint rumble of voices drawing near. My heart turned into a jackhammer as I realized I wasn't alone. That abandoned sanctuary wasn't a secret, and others were about to make their debut. Their laughter ricocheted through the dark halls, and it sent shivers down my spine. Cowering in the darkness, fear weighed me down. A ragtag bunch of 20-something guys barged in, all swagger and bravado, hidden behind hoodies and scarves. They called themselves the Reapers, wannabe gangsters with no real purpose other than causing mayhem. I'd heard whispers about their petty crimes and reckless behavior, but I never imagined they'd invade my safe haven. They came armed with the finest DIY weapons money could buy. A baseball bat, a chain, and shiny brass knuckles. They were here to prove themselves, to cement their positions in their little gang, and I, the unlucky hobo they'd found hiding in the shadows, was their star attraction. The ringleader, a beefy punk with a twisted grin, took the lead. He gave my ribs a swift kick, a pain that screamed through my body. I gasped for air, struggling to remain conscious. "What do we got here, boys?" he sneered, peering down at me with dead eyes. "Seems like we've caught ourselves a rat in our cozy little hideout." His gang of misfits laughed, their voices echoing off the crumbling walls. I had no fight left in me, no hope of escaping the impending carnage. They had me in their sights, and their thirst for blood was palpable. What followed was a ruthless barrage of fists and kicks, a symphony of pain. They reveled in their cruelty, savoring the power they held over me. I tried to beg for mercy, but my words drowned in their sadistic mirth. As the agony overwhelmed me, I realized their intentions went far beyond simple violence. The leader pulled out a knife, the blade winking in the gloom, and his cronies gathered around like a pack of vultures. "Here's how you earn your Reaper badge," he declared with malicious glee. "Take a life and become a real Reaper." I watched in horror as they etched grotesque symbols into my forehead, branding me as one of their own. The pain was unbearable, but the terror clutching my soul was far worse. They were preparing to sacrifice me in some sick ritual. As the blood streamed down, reddening my vision, I summoned a final burst of strength to fight back. With a desperate kick, I knocked the knife from the leader's hand, sending it clattering to the floor. Chaos erupted as the Reapers scrambled to regain control, their frenzy disrupted. In that madness, I seized my chance. I rose to my feet, battered and bloodied, and bolted into the shadows of the decrepit building. The Reapers chased after me, but I knew every nook and cranny better than they did. I zigzagged through hidden passages and secret stairwells, my heart pounding in my chest. The chilly night air awaited me on the rickety old fire escape, and I stumbled out, gasping for life. My bruised and battered body screamed with agony, and my blood-soaked face was a macabre mask of defiance. The unforgiving night air was a breath of fresh freedom compared to the sinister labyrinth of the abandoned building. No backward glances, no farewells. That forsaken maze, once my salvation, now held unspeakable horrors etched in my memory. The Reapers had shown me the true horrors lurking in the shadows, and I'd barely survived their macabre initiation. The scars on my flesh were a permanent testament to their depravity. As I limped through unfamiliar streets, my shattered body was a reminder of the price I'd paid. But those scars also spoke of the fire within, the will to survive against all odds. I was no longer just another nameless wanderer trying to scrape by. I was a survivor who danced with the darkest abyss of human cruelty and lived to tell the tale. In the days that followed, I found help from organizations that gave a damn about the homeless. They patched up my wounds and offered me a bed that didn't involve a cardboard and blankets. But the emotional scars ran deep, and the memories of that night haunted my sleep. I couldn't help but wonder about the Reapers, those sadistic maniacs who tried to make me their grim initiation poster boy. Had they continued their reign of terror? Had they found new victims to torment in the shadows? The city was vast, its secrets well hidden, making them impossible to track down. My journey was all about rebuilding and recovery. With the support of those who extended a lifeline, I started to rebuild my life. I found a job, a dingy little apartment, and slowly regained a sense of purpose. But those scars on my flesh and those haunting memories, they refused to fade. They were a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked, even in the most forgotten corners of society. Homelessness wasn't just about stigma. It was a brutal battle for survival in a world that often turned its back on those who needed it most. As I moved forward, I vowed to never forget the nightmares of that abandoned building. I'd use my experience to be the voice for the homeless, to shine a light on the sinister underbelly of society where cruelty and despair thrived. My scars would serve as a permanent reminder, not just of my resilience, but of the dire need for compassion and understanding in a world that had an infuriating habit of ignoring its most vulnerable. The scars on my skin became my badge of honor, a daily testament to my resilience and determination. They whispered to me that I had faced the very worst that humanity could throw at me and still emerged, battered but unbroken. They told me I was a survivor in the truest sense of the word. My life had changed forever, not just because of the physical torment I'd endured, but because my perception of the city had shifted. The streets were no longer just a place for solitude and survival. They had become a battleground where cruelty and despair waged a ceaseless war, and I, scarred and cynical, was ready to take on that battle. In the days that followed, I channeled my experiences into advocacy. I became a voice for the homeless, using my story to shed light on the dark corners of society where indifference and cruelty festered. My mission was to make sure that no one else had to endure what I had, to be a beacon of hope in a world that often turned a blind eye to those in need. The scars etched into my flesh, the haunting memories that haunted my dreams, all of it fueled my determination to make a difference. I was a survivor, and I would use that survivor's spirit to fight for those who were still trapped in the shadows. The city was indifferent, true, but it was also filled with those who cared, those who were willing to help. It was my mission to bridge the gap between those who had plenty and those who had nothing. I knew that my journey was far from over, and the scars on my skin were a constant reminder of the road ahead.